Hello and welcome to the last word on Spurs. We are your award-winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back where therapy is firmly on the cards on the back of Tottenham Hotspur's definitely most disappointing result of the season so far. A 3-0 defeat to Fulham at Craven Cottage, helping me try, dissect, break it all down. I'm welcoming back three wise men to last word on Spurs in Lee McQueen, Jason McGovern and Russ Williams returning to the show. Look, I will just say at the very, very top, we are providing literally instant reaction to this. So hopefully in the coming days, when those listen to this a bit later on, hopefully you may have calmed down. But look, we try and always find a rational balance to these shows. But I think it's very hard to dress up what we have watched. So Lee, I'm going to open up with you if I can. I mean, look, our worst performance of the season, second best really all over the pitch, and a massive reality check. And I think the biggest concern for many coming out of that 3-0 defeat to Fulham was the lack of energy. Desire has been the most disappointing things. And that's the first time Spurs have been shut out in a Premier League game for the first time under Ange Postecoglou. But many would argue it is the same underlying issues that arise again, where it's a game we should win or expected to win, but for whatever reason, the mentality isn't right. And we go into the game maybe thinking it'll be a walk in the park. And I know many are still suggesting Ange needs to improve that mentality if we are to kick on. So, I mean, the question to you, Lee, to open up is how can you deliver the best performance of the season last weekend and follow it up with that?
I mean, I try and dress up, half-dead donkeys to make them look like, racehorses at the end of the day. Mr. Optimism over here, but it's impossible to do that tonight. And I'm not going to try to do it. You've got to call it how it is. You've got to tell it how it is and see what we watched. And it was absolute shite from basically, I'd say 3 minutes into the game. I think our passing for about 2 minutes was all right. And then the rest of the half, just let Fulham grow into the game. They were faster than us. They were quicker than us at every ball. Their press was good. They broke our press relatively easily. I thought Antonee Robinson, I called it way before the game in the group, saying, I think he's a good player. When I was with my mate Mike in the South Stand at Spurs, when we beat Fulham 2-0 on the 23rd of October, we pointed him out as a good player. He's playing well. He's had a fantastic game. We were just second best all over the pitch. You can pull out, seeing in the comments here as well, everyone's got their opinion. You can pull out every single player tonight and go, he didn't do this and he didn't do that and this, that and the other. It was just the team from start to finish. I can't answer your question, Rick. Normally, I've got good answers for you. I haven't got an answer for you. How can we have our best performance of the season last week and arguably the worst performance of the season this week? The only answer I can give you, no one's going to want to hear it. Work in progress. Klopp had these issues. Arteta had these issues. Poch under us had these issues. 1 week we were good. The next minute we weren't. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. That's the only comfort I'm going to be able to take. There was nothing there today. Nothing. It's nothing. It's just literally nothing.
Lee, thank you, mate, to open up. Jace, welcome back. Can I just say, for those before they hear you speak, Jace, you sound how Tottenham Hotspur looked out at Craven Cottage. And, mate, listen, welcome back, because I do say that all honestly. But the simple reality of it, Jace, for me, is that Fulham totally worked us out. They outfought us from start to really finish. I mean, the basics, forget everything else, they just wasn't really in application by Tottenham. I mean, absolutely pathetic all over the pitch. And I think the biggest frustration for many out there will be that was a real chance to put ourselves into the driving seat for the top four, but arguably we were second best throughout the whole game. And, I will say credit to Fulham, because they did really embarrass Spurs on the night. And as I've mentioned again, I think there's no doubt that's our worst showing of the season so far. Completely undone really last week's result, momentum, and the goal difference. I mean, Jace, for someone that's always level-headed, balanced, what can you take away from anything of that fixture?
Well, I went with a light brown kit because I thought that's the closest thing to shit that I could find tonight. So, and as you hear, I'm not in great form, so you can substitute me off on 25 minutes. I can go and watch the golf, mate. But no, it was apart from a little, I thought we'd weathered their early storm, and for that little 20 minutes before half time, I thought, okay, we're starting to create chances, getting the game, and then conceding right on half time was horrific for us and a really poor goal to concede. But the second half, no excuse for that first 20, 25 minutes of the second half. We've just so far off the pace of the game, off the intensity, sloppy passing, sloppy control, easy balls that you just expect a good first touch on, bouncing off of shins, running into touch, getting caught under people's feet. It was just really, really poor, mate. And Fulham thoroughly deserved their win, and you have to give them credit. I thought Palhinha, what a player in midfield he is. He wins every ball, he wins everything, and he totally bossed us.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with, obviously, those points there. I mean, Russ bringing you in. Look, I mean, you've been with us, Russ, I'm delighted to say, for most of the season. And I think you've been of the opinion that you were concerned over the recent games that you were on. And ultimately, you were, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you've been saying you were concerned maybe a nature of this kind of result was coming. But you know what? I'll be honest with you. I really thought, Russ, after the Villa game, that I thought we turned the corner. But the last, again, this game really shows that we reverted to type in terms of what we thought we were in January, and it even managed to get worse. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason for that display. I mean, one change can't dismantle the whole side. That's what Spurs did in terms of the one change. And the lack of energy and the urgency is absolutely baffling when you consider Spurs have got no Europe, no cups, and there's still no energy. I mean, we just didn't seem to show up on the night, Russ. What do you put that performance, if you can, to anything?
Complacency, maybe. I mean, for me, it was gutless, spineless, and clueless. I thought it was a shameful performance for all of us to watch, let alone all those fabulous fans who looked as though they were having a good time on the boats and what have you, going down to Fulham. Silver Ball completely outdid Ange Ball, which, in my opinion only, we haven't seen for a couple of months, 3 months. The first 10 games of the season, we were in a sort of like dreamland, a wonderland. And, at the end of the season, the important bit now is somehow, I think we've got to forget about this and pick ourselves up and get ourselves in one of those Champions League spots. And this is the really annoying thing about it for me. And I've watched Spurs for a lot of years, like a lot of our viewers and listeners have. And, of a certain age, some of us say there's one thing that is certain: Spurs will always let you down. And history proves over and over again that they do somehow conspire to come up with a performance like that. Win that tonight. Villa play tomorrow. They're under big pressure. We're a point clear. The goal difference is better. And, I know they had a good result in Europe in the week. But now, we've got some really tough games coming up. 5th might be enough to get Champions League football, at least qualification. OK, that's fine. And we'd all be happy with that. And it would be amazing. Would it be papering over the cracks? Probably a little bit, because the bottom line is it's another season this season without winning a trophy. We don't look anywhere near to it, Rick. And, our fans are sick of it. The club put up the old season tickets, the concessions drama. I mean, you have to ask questions across the board at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, from the coaching to the decisions made by the chairman and the board. What's going on? I mean, who coaches the defence at Spurs? Because I don't think they look as though they've been coached at all. We're giving the ball away sloppily, as Jason was saying and Lee was saying, in midfield, and we're leaving 2 blokes to try and stop quick running, skillful Fulham players, and we get caught out, and it takes forever to work it out. I don't think that Pep or Klopp, they manage other football clubs, even when they were trying to get going, would have sat there at half time and put the same 11 out again. I think they would have just said, sorry guys, it's not working. And so there are some questions on Big Ange now, and what exactly is going on in training, what the methodology is going to be. It's not a crisis, but I think we're entitled to ask some questions. That's all I'm saying. And I hope that in the comments, some of our viewers and certainly the listeners will respond to you, Rick. And it's brilliant that we can all gather on a really miserable night like tonight, or whenever you're listening. All of these people have valid opinions. We're only giving ours relatively balanced. But for me, there's there's bigger problems, because we've got a string of big games coming up. And if we play like that, we're going to get battered in most of them. And we might not even get top 5, because United, they're United. It concerns me that we've gone from a position where I was pretty confident we'd definitely get top 4. On the last few games where we've scraped wins, this has been coming, and it's come away at Fulham tonight. And they looked as though they didn't have an answer from the manager to the players, and that's worrying.
Mac, I'm going to come back around to you. Spurs have only kept 2 clean sheets across their last 19 games in the Premier League since the first match in this run. That's October the 27th. Only Sheffield United, 1, have kept fewer in the competition during this period. And now Spurs have conceded the most goals among the current top 6 in the Premier League. Is this just another game, Lee, that exemplifies why Mickey van der Ven is arguably the one player Spurs really can't do without when it comes to us discussing the defence and the nature of us conceding goals?
Not really. I think it's because I thought Radu Dragusin, I thought he'd done well. I thought he'd done well tonight. I think they were getting in behind Destiny a lot, and I think maybe that's because we got a right foot playing as a left-sided centre back, so maybe that Mickey thing is there. I think for me, it's one of them where we were excellent last week, absolutely excellent, and this week we were absolutely woeful. So it is that going up and down piece, and it's infuriating, absolutely infuriating. It's frustrating, but I mean, I'm slightly different to Russ. So I think there's a performance around the corner where we're going to absolutely batter a team, and that's very rich coming from me today after what we've all just watched. But you wait a couple of weeks, we come back against Luton, we go and smash them, for example, and then this is the season. Jace always says it. There's an element of ups and downs. Remember Poch in his first season, he was probably going to get a sack if Harry Kane's free kick don't go in against Villa, and that was heavily deflected. And we have an amazing result, and then we go and lose to Wigan. Or West Bromwich Albion, I think it was, or whatever it might be. We did the same under Villas-Boas. We had some really good performances under Villas-Boas. I think at the time we had our highest points total in the Premier League under Villas-Boas. And then we still lost to Wigan 1-0 at home in that season. So it's trying to keep a calm head. That's what Andrew will be trying to do. But as a passionate fan, as I am, season ticket holder, I'm absolutely livid that we put in that performance today. I don't think there's anything that I don't think there was one performance on that pitch today that you could go, fair enough. Even Vicario was starting to shake out, and he's been outstanding. Destiny's one of my favourite players. He wasn't very good today. Pyro was shocking. It's probably unfair to me and for all the viewers and listeners to call individuals out because they were all not very good. And that start from the manager today, it was a very, very bad performance in the office. I mean, the defensive wise, I don't think if Mickey van der Ven was there today, maybe we might not have conceded as many. But I don't think the effort and the everyone was saying about the effort and the energy and the press, that wouldn't have been any different, would it, if Mickey was there or not? Because he doesn't control Madder's press. He doesn't control Johnson's press. He doesn't control Son's control tonight, as an example. And I know we have a huge following in South Korea, and you won't like me for saying this, but it was shocking today. His passes, his little passes, they were everything that we did today. And fair play to Fulham, I have to say that as well. I thought Fulham were excellent all over the pitch. Really, really, really well done to them. Fantastic. What's frustrating and infuriating us Tottenham fans is that we've been in and around the top 4, in the top 5 all season. I don't think we've even been out of the top 5. Might have to check the blue book for that. And we're getting done by teams, fair play to them, but teams that are in mid-table, teams that are 13th, 14th, 12th. Wolves, when they beat us, they were like 15th or whatever, and they've been on a good run. But this is where it's really, really frustrating. Fulham just looked to me like we looked to Villa last week. And that's part of the Premier League. It is absolutely relentless. And that's why you have to tip your hat to teams that go there consistently. I mean, Liverpool have lost one game in the league all season. It's absolutely ridiculous. These are the levels that we're trying to get to. And we've had Big Angie for 8 months. Do you know what I mean? We were absolutely on our knees last year under Stellini and everyone else. So I'm not trying to make excuses for today. Absolutely not. There's none. But people calling him out and saying it's got to go. I'm not having that. It's on him today. But everyone with a pair of eyeballs in their head can see the change is happening at Tottenham. Now, Arteta finished 8th twice. He delivered them a cup. He did. But he finished 8th twice and he got pipped to the Champions League. And we were on the glory train and they weren't. Now look where they are. You know, Rick, you've said it before, and I'm sure you'll say it again. We're not ready for Champions League. Maybe, look, it's going to sound unambitious, and you can all call me out, viewers and listeners, but we're going to see who's won stuff and who's got an unbelievable career, before you start calling me loser mentality. But the reality is you've got to be ready to take that next step. And we are definitely not ready to begin to think that we're as good as Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal. I'm going to say their name because they've been fantastic. Arsenal got the best defence in the league. So, we've conceded now 42 goals in the Premier League. We are rapidly becoming, like we was last season. What did we do last season, Rick? 60 plus goals? I think it was 60 goals that we conceded. So, if you're not going to score at the other end, and that's another disappointment, is another little record that is inconsequential now. But, we've scored in the last 39 or 40 games. It's the first game under Ange Postecoglou who ain't scored a goal. First game. Craziness, absolute craziness. And we're all very disappointed. But we've got to stay on where we are because we are on the right path. Deep down, we all know we're on the right path.
Jason, I'm over to you. Andrew was just been asked by the BBC with regards to the performance. When asked if that defeat feels like one step forward, one step back, he responded, it feels more like 4 steps forward, 1 step back. If we go 1 step forward, 1 back, we'd be more like in 18th position. I mean, I think he's not in any way trying to sugarcoat the nature of the defeat. I mean, there's been questions I've seen in relation to the nature of when he was going to make the substitutions. What would be your frustration with Ange today? Is it the nature of not changing the game fast enough? Because, I mean, really, the team selection that came out, I think many of us were quite happy with the team. We knew the one change would be enforced because Mickey was injured, Dragusin coming in. So what really changed with relation to this week to last week when you look at Aston Villa performance to this one?
Well, I think part of what changed is that Fulham are a better side than Aston Villa last week. That's for sure. And, Polina did everything that John McGinn didn't do last week, didn't he? And John, they're similar types of players. But and Lukic alongside him did everything that Douglas Luiz didn't do last week. They're harrying and that forced us into mistakes, and fair play to them. But our general play, as we said all night, was sloppy. Whether Mickey's absence really made a difference, possibly. I mean, kept saying through the group, didn't I? Destiny's just not coming back with his runners. Whether he partly relies on Mickey's pace is always going to bail him out of trouble, and suddenly it wasn't there, so that gets exposed that a little bit more than we thought. But Destiny's defensive performance today was horrific. The first goal is in and behind him. The second goal comes down his side. The third goal comes from a corner when they get behind him. It's really, really poor from him today. But the front six, every single one of the front six, not one of them won an individual battle all night, did they? Kulu couldn't pass his man. Johnson didn't go past his man enough. Sonny's touch was off. Madders couldn't find a pass. Sarr gave the ball away, and Bissouma can't tell me Bissouma looked any better than a Heiberg tonight. So if you got 6 or 7 players miles off their levels, then that's going to reflect in the result, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, look, Andrew was asked after the game as well with relation to Mickey missing, was that the difference? And his response was that the reason we didn't perform was not down to Mickey van der Ven not being there today. And I think, again, it's not one player that makes a team. I mean, Russie went on further to say, look, we weren't...
I was just going to add to that, Rick, as well. I think it would be too easy for people to say, well, Dragusin came in and they've let him 3. That's not fair.
Yeah, no,
I thought Dragusin 1v1 did okay.
Yep.
I mean, you looked at the early minutes with the Romero block and things. We could have been a 2 or 3 down in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We were all over the place. So, it was poor all round.
And just commented further on the defeat, Russ. He says, look, we weren't great, especially in that second half. The first half was even enough. We can see the disappointing goal. In the second half, we didn't get to grips with the game. The intensity dropped. Our final third play wasn't great, but it's more the overall performance that was disappointing. There are things we've done all year we've prided ourselves on, our intensity and tempo, but that wasn't there in the second half. I mean, the frustration for me, Russ, is that I think we all know now going into every game, I know we hate the term as Spurs fans, it's a cup final, given the nature of Tottenham and getting to cup finals. But we know how important, Russ, every single game is. So is it concerning that when you have a performance like that against Aston Villa, we can't back it up? Or as I think as Jason's alluded to there, we have to give as much praise to Fulham for stopping Tottenham by the nature of the way they played against us.
I think we do. I think Marco Silva's a very good coach. He's got some good players there, and I think they fancied it. I think there was the feeling was that Spurs would just turn up, get the 3 points, march into fourth, and maybe the players believe that. I mean, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit, Lee, because we did thump somebody, and it was Aston Villa 4-0, and this is how they've responded. They've lost 3-0 away at Fulham, which isn't good enough. What I want to know, Rick, is did Ange say anything about how he plans to fix it? Because this was the worst performance of the season, I think, by Spurs, by some distance.
Yep.
We had Bissouma in the first few games. It was like watching Moussa Dembele. It was one of our great players. He was making space for Sarr and Madders. They could play the passes. And the way we played football, but now he just looks frightened, unconfident. What's happened? And we saw that from an awful lot of them tonight. But the manager is paid to fix it with his coaching staff. And please God, it's a one-off. But it has been worrying over the last few games, the way that we have been submissive, shot shy, sloppy. And we've got over the line, luckily, in a few games that we've talked about before. I mean, I'm not one of those people who think that Tottenham should go out and win 3-4-0 every time we play. Of course not. It's a sport. It's football.
Yep.
But there has been a trend, and I feel that this kind of result has been coming, and it could have happened earlier, but it didn't. But it's happened tonight, and it really was gutless all round from everyone concerned with the football club at the side of the pitch and on the pitch, I'm afraid. And that includes the manager and the coaching staff. It just simply wasn't good enough.
I mean,
didn't even see the body language that we've seen in some games. It didn't.
No, exactly.
There was nothing. No captaincy, no leadership.
You're kind of relying on what the TV camera shows. So maybe if you're alongside the stadium, you can see it. But from the outside, it just seemed like we accepted what was going on. You didn't really see that rally. I know they had the huddle at the start of the second half, but it didn't really seem that real communication that you need to come on, boys. Can't let this happen. And,
no one grabbing the grain, was there, Jace? There was no leadership on it. I said downstairs before I come on here, like Sonny, his touches were poor. I said on here that his touches were poor, but where was the captaincy piece? Where was the guys? Let's get a grip on where we are, right? We didn't even have a spell today of 10, 15 minutes, 15, 20 minute spell where we normally blow teams away. And there was an aspect after their fourth goal, bloody fourth goal. After their fourth goal got ruled for offside. We started having some shots. He made some changes and thinking, you get a goal here, like the Brighton game, like I think you said in the WhatsApp group, you get a goal here and all of a sudden something might happen, because that's the nature of this team is we play in fits and starts or bursts. And we didn't even have a 10, 15 minute burst today, 15, 20 minute burst where we absolutely ruined them. I mean, they've had like 16 shots. They also had like 6 or 7 blocked shots. So we'd block 6 or 7 of them shots that won't even count as a shot, if you like, or as a shot on target. And because they were blocked from the defenders. So they had our number from start to finish the whole game. And look, sometimes I'm not blowing it off, right? But sometimes you just have a really shit day at the office.
That's what I was going to ask you, Lee.
Who's had a bad work in their life?
Yeah.
And what we've got, right? We've had a bad day.
Yeah. I want to ask you that, Lee, because I think that's one thing we do need to mention, the fact that, look, we haven't been outplayed in every single game this season. I mean, these results have been few and far between. I don't want to, again, dress it up in terms of many maybe suggesting that I'm trying to cover this up. I know to then balance that, if I can just balance it. If I can just balance it and say, look, I know there's been concerns that we haven't seen a full 90-minute performance from Spurs. I think against Villa, that was arguably the best we've seen this season. But there has been those concerns there, which Russ has voiced in the nature of this season so far. But Russ was also there in the first 9-10 games. We were all saying how incredible it was. I think we always try and be balanced on the show. But I think when you look at the aspect at the moment is that, and credit to John at Lily White Rose for this, we all said, Lee, coming into the season, we were undergoing a rebuild. We said there's going to be a change of style. But when you look at who have been outplayed this season by, you could really count it on one hand, right? It's not been many, many teams. And when you look at Spurs' last 13 Premier League games, it's 1-8, drawn 2, lost 3. How hard is it, Lee, at the moment, given we've just come off the back of that result to Fulham? It is a missed opportunity, Lee, just to try and have a bit of perspective and come back after the international break and be ready to go again.
Well, yeah, look, it is disappointing. I will put FC Pereira to put some respect on Fulham's name. Obviously, passionate Fulham fan in the group. Like, fair play. We have, to be fair, Perry. We have put Fulham were outstanding from start to finish today. I thought Antonee Robinson was excellent. Your Brazilian striker might start taking Richarlison's spot in Brazil in the latest squad if he keeps doing what he's doing, 7-7. So look, that Fulham were excellent. But we're here to talk about and dissect Spurs' performance at the end of the day. And although they have played really, really well today, it's disappointing, Rick. Of course, it's disappointing. Look, we want to get as high as we can. We want as many points as we can. We're just making ourselves harder. Most people would have put, the Liverpool away game down as a loss. Most people will probably put the Chelsea away game down as a loss. They're two games that we haven't played yet. Most people would have put the Fulham away game down as a win. But now we've got to go and beat either Chelsea or Liverpool to balance out this result. So we've just made it harder for ourselves. Now, the reality is, we still might lose to Liverpool away and Chelsea away, and all the people that are in the group or what are viewers and listeners say, what are you talking about? But that's the reality. Like, nothing's changed until the end of the season, right? Really, there's still this the points that we got to play for. It's very disappointing. We've now got 2 weeks to stomach this crap, because we've got an international break and we can't get back out of the field and put it right. And it's really, really insufferable. You watch Villa go and get an amazing result tomorrow, and everyone, it makes the Villa result a bit void, doesn't it? Do you see where I'm coming from? It doesn't take away from today that Fulham were excellent, Spurs were rubbish. Simple as that. We didn't do any of the stuff that we normally do. I didn't see any of it today. Like none of that.
It is important not to knee-jerk, because you see in the comments, well, if we can play like that at Fulham, we'll never get in the top 5. We're even in 5th count. So we're assuming that Man United then get 5th. But didn't Fulham go to Man United and beat them?
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, okay. So there you go. So if you lose to Fulham, you can't get in the top 5. So perhaps Wolves are going to get 5th, or perhaps Luton are going to get 5th.
Brighton. I was told Brighton are going to get top 4. I was told Brighton were going to get top 4 before the season started, because they were miles better than us. And that's the point, is that you just got. It's really disappointing. We're all absolutely flaked from today.
Don't forget, if you lose at Fulham, you deserve nothing. So presumably Arsenal don't win the league because they lost at Fulham.
Well, actually, they haven't beaten Fulham this year.
No.
It's
that's what I mean.
The league's bonkers. The league is absolutely bonkers.
Jerk to one result. That's the important thing. You just have to throw the context of 38 games and see where we come out.
I think, again, though, look, many would argue maybe the international break has come at a good time. The fact you now get a couple of weeks to try and reflect and put the wrongs right. I mean, the thing, as we all know, is, Russ, a lot of these players go away on international duty. You don't really get the bulk of them back until literally a couple of days before Luton, where, let's be honest about it, Luton at the moment are going through a difficult period themselves. Of course, they blew a 3-0 lead during the week. Which teams blow a 3-0 lead in the Premier League? Who do that? Sorry, try lighten the tone. And obviously, they got themselves a point earlier on.
I know one that's blown a 4-goal lead, mate, at Newcastle.
Thanks for that, Jace. Keep it balanced, eh?
I know one who's lost more than a 3-goal lead.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think very quickly, if I touch on this, I'll bring it into the second part of the show. But is it important, Russ, to have that perspective this season? That we've seen some good displays, we've seen some poor displays. Is this the nature of the first season syndrome under a manager? That when you're looking for that consistency, it's a bit of a zigzag, right?
Yeah, maybe. Two thoughts on that. Don't see any leader on the pitch for us. I really see nobody when the chips are down going up to all of them. I mean, we can all do a huddle before we come on and do this show, and it looks great, but does it really matter? Not really. It's just a thing that everyone does. Back in the day, your Dave Mackay's, Steve Perrymans of the world, they were the blokes who would just tear off their colleagues a strip on the pitch. You've got the leader of a country on the side of the pitch and the generals are on the pitch carrying out the policy. And I don't see that. And I think that is an issue for Spurs and has been for a while. Sonny is the club captain. He's not that kind of bloke. It's as simple as that. He's a shining example of everything that is great about a professional footballer. On his day, he's a world-class player. Yep, we all know all these brilliant things about him and what he's done for us. And he'll do more. But he's not an up-and-atom leader. And, I do feel as though even now, when we play our best three in midfield, where I think the leader should be, we don't have a leader in there. And the second point that I just want to add and throw this in is that whatever happens this season, we have to get rid of players. We know that. And we have to bring quality in. And this is where the buck, once again, comes back to Daniel Levy and the owners and the board and this super duper football department that we've now got to come up with the answers. And more importantly, the money. Harry Kane was sold for an awful lot of money. So they've got money. We now have to be wise who we get rid of and how we get the money in, because you can't expect Ange Postecoglou to work miracles next season with this squad of players. Isn't going to happen. We desperately need 3 or 4 new players, quality players. Champions League helps. But those are the two areas that I think affect everything going forward that we're going to do and what we are right now to get through these difficult games. How are we going to conjure up a leader? And I'm not sure we've got one.
It's a good point. Sorry, Rick, just come in there. It's a good point I think Russ makes. Russ, I think you make a good point there about Champions League helps to maybe get the better players in. For sure, but there's a lot of talk about the Mickey van der Ven. There's a lot of talk in the chat about goals and how many goals we're conceding and that sort of stuff. And I love my blue book. And again, this is just an opportunity to have a look. When Poch first took over in 2014-15 season, we finished 5th in the end with 64 points. We let in 53 goals that season. That's Poch's first season. We all know what we went on to do under Poch. Champions League final, 2 title races, etc., etc. Didn't win anything. We all know that. We don't need to remind ourselves, although I just did. Sorry about that, Spurs fans. But the reality is that we let in 53 goals. Yeah, this season so far we've let in 42 goals, and actually we might let in more than the 53. My point being is the season after, when Poch got his team that he wanted, and we had Alderweireld and we had Vertonghen at the back, and we had Danny Rose and we had Kyle Walker, we had the best defensive record in the Premier League the year after. So everybody's talking about, we need this, we need this. We've got the players that we need. We just need to learn the system. We need to learn the way. We need to get brave in certain things, and it will start to come. Arteta let in 40 plus goals, 38 goals, 39 goals. They've now got the best defensive record in the Premier League as we talk today. So it doesn't happen straight away. It rarely happens in the first season. Pep Guardiola is the best manager outside of Sir Alex Ferguson, maybe Jose Mourinho, whatever, is the best manager in the world. I don't think most people argue with that. And in his first season at Man City, with all that money, with all the oil cash, with everything he's got, and the best manager, he still shipped loads of goals. He still finished 3rd. He still finished 8 points behind Tottenham that season. So you've just got to put it into context a little bit, team, like all of us, team, I'm calling you all team, because it is highly disappointing. I'm absolutely livid that we lost tonight. But the reality is we are on the right path, Rick, and there is something that is building here. We can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, and it's definitely not going to change that high defensive line and where we are. He's not going to do it, because the minute he does do it now means that the belief completely goes. And this is what we're building. We're building the belief, even to us. Do we all have to believe it? Do we all believe it? Maybe I believe it more than you. Maybe I still don't 100%. But the point being is that he's building that belief in the dressing room, in the players. He will not change it. We've had John on here, who's the author of his biography, and he's said time and time again, we've had Australian fans in there, we've had Celtic fans in the group. He will not change. And the reason why is because he's building for something. And I trust him to get it right. I think he will get it right. I think he's got it. I think he will get it right. But again, just a bit of context around it. 53 goals we conceded, and then we had 26 conceded the following season under Poch, the best defensive record in the Premier League at that point. We can go and do that again if we're building in that right way. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. If I can add on that as well, Lee, John Newman very kindly shared it there. After 28 games last season, we were 5th on 49 points. This season, we're 5th on 53 points. We've conceded 2 more goals, but we have scored 7. And, again, for the context you're saying there, Lee, about, adaptation and, for those wanting to see an adaptation to the football, I think, when people say Ange has to adapt or foul, I've really come along to this, the fact that, all the top teams look to play on the front foot and not change for the opposition. Now, it's kind of twofold. You'd say the top teams have the top players and therefore they don't need to change. The argument, in my opinion, is will Spurs over time, with no disrespect to some of the weaker players in that squad, be able to overhaul the nature of those and actually bring in genuine, decent players that can really go on and challenge the 11? I think that links back to what Russ said earlier about the ball this summer. Are they going to actually give Ange Postecoglou the actual players he needs to build out a squad? Or are we in a situation where we're relying on 11, 12, 13 players? And as we saw this season, the moment you take 2 or 3 of those players out, and again, it happens to the best sides, the Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, whoever you want to say, they struggle. But, we know it's been unmitigating circumstances with Tottenham this season in terms of losing the players they lost all at one time. But it is a continual need to adapt, to change the squad, to make it better. And look, I think for all of us here, we're not going to go through every single goal piece by Fulham, because I think that would literally kill us off. But I think what many will want to know is that, look, from here, how do we react? How do we move forward? And, Jace, I'll come to you. On the back of that display today, all of us know how poor that is. All of us recognise it's the worst performance of the season. How important is it, given the nature of the games we've got to come, that we do see a reaction? Because we are, as we know, coming to those months now of April and the back end of March, where we've got some huge, huge games to the football club that are going to ultimately decide where Spurs do end up this season.
Well, it's vital you get the reaction. The next 3 games before we go into that run. Luton and Forest at home, and we certainly have to go to West Ham and perform better than we did tonight, because we know that they'll be well up for that game, and they've already won at Tottenham. So we simply have to respond, mate, and give ourselves that best opportunity to take that run on, and then those fixtures get really, really tough come the end of the season, don't they? As you say, we got Chelsea and Man City to fit in midweeks and things like that. So you've got no option. You have to react. But players tend to react well, I think, to those types of things. It's not often we go on a run of 4 or 5 straight defeats, let's be honest. For everyone that always slags us off and for what we don't do when we're expected to do it, it's very rare that we go on a run where we'll suffer a heavy defeat and don't get a reaction. It's whether that reaction is just for the next game against Luton and then we drop off, but that reaction has to be 3 points Luton, 3 points West Ham, 3 points Forest, and a proper performance at Newcastle where the game can run away from you very quickly in those games. So but I think the players they know that wasn't good enough tonight, and it will be put out in front of them that you just have to be better than that. That's for sure. And I'd expect us to respond.
Russ, I want to ask you a question, because I think you actually brought this up on some previous Last Word on Spurs episodes, that if we're going to be playing 2 games a week, Does the nature of a kind of result like that concern you in terms of finding that balance, or does that go back to your point you made 5-10 minutes ago, with the fact that there needs to be a significant investment into the squad rather than the first team, of bringing in players that are on the same level to genuinely change the likes of Destiny Udogie, Pedro Porro, and really push them on? I think no one can really, in my opinion, hold Dragusin to account for the reason Spurs have conceded 3 goals today. But I think we know we're in a situation now where we've finally got somebody, I believe, in Dragusin. Now, it's early days. You could argue that there isn't that concern we had, no disrespect, when you had Eric Dyer coming in or Davinson Sanchez coming in. How important is that, Russ, to have that now across the team? Because I know many are concerned about maybe the nature of not having a recognised centre forward, despite the fact of Heung-min Son's remarkable record and the fact that he's 5th in the all-time goal-scoring charts for Tottenham. Are there areas that you feel will make you feel a lot more stronger going into next season, and ultimately going to be having those 2 games a week? Because look, whatever happens between now and the end of the season, Spurs are going to end up with some form of European football. It just is what type of football and what type of level that European football is.
Yeah, I think for me, there's 2 ways of looking at it. The bare minimum is you've got to have a decent squad, which means people have got to come in, because I think we need a centre forward, a proper centre forward. I think we need reinforcements in midfield, certainly a sort of enforcer type character. We've got 3 central defenders who are excellent, assuming they're all going to stay with the club. We know that in that position we're okay. But the 2 games a week is interesting, because if you looked at that tonight and a few of our most recent games, you just go, they can't even play 1 game a week. But I think if you're playing well and you don't have the injuries, which is a bit of luck, and you've got the squad that you can rotate a little bit, when you're playing well and winning, momentum just keeps you going in a way. And so I would like to think it would be that way, but I'm not naive enough to think that we don't need some new personnel. So I think it's a little bit of both. I would prefer us to be playing twice a week, personally, because it means actually we're competing for stuff. Because as I said at the start of the show, you know, famously Wenger said, "Oh, a Champions League spot is a trophy." It's not really, but it does allow you to expand your football club and make the team better and compete better, perhaps, in your domestic league. It's another season this season where Tottenham Hotspur Football Club have not won a trophy. We've had Mourinho, we've had Conte, we've had, Poch. We've not won a trophy. And now it's Ange who's got to try and pick up the baton. And I think he fancies it, actually. So hopefully he's right. But I think Ange confuses some of our fan base, if I'm honest, because when he does the press conferences, he's absolutely brilliant. What he was saying in the week, about tourist fans and all the footage from the training center and everything that we all saw was just magnificent. And he quite clearly is a really nice bloke. But the thing I find a little bit frustrating, I don't know about anybody else, is he just doesn't move. He's like a statue on the side of the pitch. He doesn't show any emotion. And I wasn't on the show when his biographer came on the show. Maybe that's the way he is. But to me, football is a game of passion. And as annoying as the little Spaniard is down the road, he has got passion. And I think fans like to see that kind of stuff. There's plenty of managers who do, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that him having passion, Rick, and everybody else is going to change every result in a positive way. But if he'd have shown how angry he obviously was from the touchline tonight, maybe, just maybe, it could have fired things up a little bit earlier. I don't know. But I want us to play two games a week because it means we're competing in Europe. And I think it's important for our club.
I think, look, Russ, on that point, I know that he's actually been asked that in the past. And I think his argument has been that he sees it as a level of control, that he's so focused in the game that he doesn't actually allow anything around that periphery to get to him. And it's almost like tunnel vision in terms of being engrossed in the game. But I totally understand the point. He's actually just been asked about the top four. And I'm looking, obviously, to wrap this show up. Look, guys, I'll be honest with you. I think the nature of that defeat, it'd be serious to sit and analyse all 3 goals because, look, can we be honest about it and say everybody was at fault, in that performance? There's nobody that can really come out with any sense of credit or humility. I think we have to
No
put it
one's
down
getting
as a
over
genuine
4, are they?
bad
Let's be
day at the
honest.
office.
No, numbers wise, you rating no one's over 4, are they?
No, not really.
Everyone in that
I mean,
team has
bless him.
got
Ali
4 out of
Gold,
10,
friend of the
4
show,
out
that's
of
just done
10,
his
4 out
ratings
of 10.
himself. There's
Yeah.
3s and 4s in there. There's 3s and 4s in there.
There's got to be 3s and 4s. Actually, just quickly on their goal, as you brought up, I thought their second goal was very good. I actually think he meant it. He opened his body up, it hit his knee. It's a fantastic goal. Fair play to Fulham. Sometimes teams just get done. Yeah, sometimes they get done. We get done more than other teams, and other teams get done more than we do. That's the reality, man. Let's not let it ruin everyone's weekend. I know it's batting all of our weekends, but the reality is we got done by a better team today. Let's hope Villa. Well, we don't even want Stamford to win either, do we? To be fair, so let's just not worry about it. Let's just go and watch the rugby.
For once, I agree with Jason. For once in my life, I agree with Jason. Stick the goal.
I'm going out for Thai green curry, mate. That's what I'm doing.
I'll tell you right. I'm going to close it on these. I'm going to close it on these final points. Don't make Jason feel any more worse than he is now. God, send the bloke back home. Andrew was asked on the top 4. He said, look, I don't see 4th as a prize. The club has finished 4th before. It finished 2nd before. You can throw all these types of things at it. It reached the Champions League final. You can throw all these sorts of things, but the club has achieved things. So 4th is not my end goal. I don't want to finish 4th if we haven't grown as a team and developed as a team. Guys, what do you make of that? I mean, I'll come to you, Jace, because I've actually had a discussion. We've had this discussion before. For me, I'll be able to say it. I'm not too disheartened if Tottenham were to finish in a Europa League place. Although, given the fact of West Ham's result in Europe earlier in the week, it looks an all but now certainty that 5th spot will stretch to be in a Champions League spot. But do you have a feeling, Jace, at the moment, what we now, we're 10 games away as such, is there a concern whether we're in either competition? Does that change your mind or narrative going into next season to not look too far ahead? Because I know we're just trying to get over this result.
No, not particularly, but I want to play at the highest level. I want Champions League football. I know people say we're not ready for Champions League football. How many clubs are ready for Champions League football? Of the 36 teams that start next season's Champions League, how many teams can win it? So, there'll be 30 teams out of next year's 36 that aren't ready for Champions League football. But it doesn't mean you don't try and do your best to have a go at it. So, and are we really ready for Europa League football and a challenge in the Premier League? Probably not. So I think the only difference it makes is that if you play in the Europa League in the group stages, maybe you can involve an Ashley Phillips, an Alfie Devine, Jamie Donnelly, whereas if you get in the Champions League, you probably can't, and they'll need loans. But other than that, no, Jesus Christ, why would you want to be playing Hoffenheim when you can be playing Real Madrid? It's just nuts. Of course you want to be playing the Champions League.
Yep. Russ, I'll come over to you, and I'll look to Lee to close it. Andrew was asked on wasting the chance to go into the top 4. He said, look, you can live with that accusation all you want. I get it, and I'm happy for people to run that sort of commentary because it's meaningless to me. I don't, as I say, see 4th as a prize. And he went on to say that from his perspective, 4th would be great if I feel like we were growing as a team and we're creating something that is going to bring us success next year. But 4th is not our goal. It isn't in relation to any of the kind of teams that I've coached in the past. It seems like people push you into that position where you succeed or fail just on an outcome. I don't think that's how you get success. Success is built on, and I think, more tangible stuff. If we finish 5th, and I think we've got the team to challenge next year, then I won't be disappointed. What do you make of that, Russ?
Fair enough.
He's not really commented on positions in the past. So what's your takeaway from those comments there from Andy?
Well, almost hedging his bets a little bit, but I kind of understand that if Tottenham finish 5th and we happen to sneak into the Champions League, or if we didn't finish in the top 5, because it's between us and Germany, isn't it, who gets that 5th spot by the look of it, and we played in the Europa League, that would be okay as well. And I think what you're saying is, if by achieving wherever we finish in the league, him and his coaching staff feel that next season, which we've all spoken about, is going to be a springboard, we hope, for really being able to challenge for silverware and make a really good fist of it in the Premier League as well. It's going to take new personnel. We know that. Then I understand completely why he's saying that. So we mustn't get too down in the dumps to finish up. I think we have to recognise that tonight, simply across the board, was absolutely useless. And by the way, anyone watching from Sky Sports, next time Tottenham play, as decent as he is,
I know what you're going to say.
no Alan Smith, the joke's over. Okay.
I don't get it. I still don't get it. It's been the same for years, though. I just don't get it. No, Russ, final one from me to you. Russ, does that result change any of your feelings between now and the end of the season, as you've got a nice glass of red, I assume, there in the hand, and you get to put down an answer?
Yes, the only feeling I had, particularly with a large part of that game, was it could have been Antonio Conte on the touchline. That was the only feeling I have. And I know he's not there. And I'm not saying that the players are reverting to Conte football, but it really did look like that. But I'm still quite optimistic that I know I've said that I felt we'd finish third, and I really did think we'd finish third, particularly if we'd have won tonight. I can see the crumble coming from Woolwich over the next few weeks. And I thought that if we could win tonight, string together some good results and usually play all right against the big boys, but maybe not win, but win the games we had, we could have been there or thereabouts. But fourth would be a hell of an achievement now.
I think, Russ, the reason why you say it like that, if I can agree with you on that point, is because the nature of it would have been that Spurs obviously won tonight, won against Luton, and because the top three aren't playing now until the following week due to FA Cup involvement, Spurs would have been in the situation. Well, Spurs would have been in a situation where they would have only been 5 points off top at the time of Arsenal going to Man City, and that again is why I think there's so much anger and frustration, because it is a massive missed opportunity. And you know, and just come over to you, Lee, to close it. Look, he did say in his perspective, look, to be fair to the players, it's the first time this year where I felt, especially in the second half, that we just didn't turn up. We're in the position we are because of them every week. We've been really, really competitive in every aspect of the game. And even in our losses, I felt like we've always hit certain markers in terms of our endeavour and competitiveness. And I thought that it was missing today. And that was the most disappointing aspect. I mean, finally, does it change your perspective on between now and the rest of the season with those big games on the horizon?
Well, look, I mean, I've said it. I've been pretty consistent with, you know, the big games on the horizon are the ones you want to be in, but you don't want to be going into the big games on the horizon when you're getting absolutely spanked by, you know, greatest respect to Fulham, a team that's 12th in the league. So, you know, you of course, in your mind, all of us as passionate fans kind of have that wobble, that up and down, and the teams like that at the moment, the up and down piece, the confidence after last week. We should have been going into this game. We had an unbelievable away record as well, by the way. Absolutely outstanding away record. We've only lost 2 games all season away from home. And we've been to the Emirates, and we've been to Old Trafford, and we've been to the Etihad, and we're unbeaten in all of them. So, you know, coming into that Fulham game, beating Villa last week, we should have been on it. And we wasn't. We literally wasn't. And part of that, and we've said this for years, Jason and I and everyone else, but Jason and I have said this for years since we've been doing these shows, it is fine margins at this level. It's absolutely fine margins. The Premier League is bonkers. You know, Luton are 3-0 up, and then all of a sudden they lose 4-3 to Bournemouth. The league is bonkers all over the place. And today was one of them results that wasn't an out of the blue bonkers result, as Russ said, because you know they could have seen it on the horizon. But it wouldn't also surprise me if we go to another team and go and whip them 5, 6, or even 7, because we've got that ability in the team. I just think you've got to ride with where we are. We finished where we finished. I said beginning of the season, I think we'd finish 5th before the ball was kicked. When we were top of the league, I said, I think we can finish 3rd. I'm backing with Russ with that as well. I think that's beyond us. Let's be fair. But I still think we can get 74, 75 points out of the rest of the to finish out of the rest of the games that we've got. And, you know, with that City win today, they're now being moved. So we haven't got that City, Liverpool, Arsenal scenario going on, because City's fixture, I think, would be moved because they've got a semi-final in the FA Cup now to contend with. And if Arsenal get through their Champions League scenario, their fixtures are going to be completely congested around it as well. So loads of football still to play. So I'm still optimistic that we can do well. But it's really disappointing tonight, lads. To Tottenham Hotspur, to all the boys, everyone would know, the coaching staff. It was absolute shit tonight, and you lot should be going. We got 2 weeks of that crap now that we got to think about it. everyone else giving us ban and battering us, and we've got to go again. It's life as a Spurs fan, isn't it, Rick? Life as a Spurs fan.
I've got to say, I thought what summed it up was the Spurs fans had up a banner saying "Save our seniors," and Timo Werner's shot nearly hit him, which kind of really sums up the actual shit show we saw. And just to reiterate what Lee's point was there, for those that might have missed it, that from what we understand, this is from Sam Lee at The Athletic, is following Man City beating Newcastle United in the FA Cup today, that does mean the fact they've reached the semi-finals will see that Tottenham game be rearranged. Now, again, interesting, I'm not sure how that affects Arsenal in relation to us playing them, but what you might find is another situation now where Spurs, similar to the week they were meant to play Chelsea, obviously that got to the Carabao Cup where we had that missing week. I just wonder if that's going to be the same situation for Tottenham now because of Man City progressing, whether Spurs miss a week. And then coincidentally, what you've got is another week where teams are basically another game ahead of Tottenham, which I've always said is a big concern for me about the fact Spurs are going to be playing catch-up and having those games, in hand. I mean, Jace, you kind of pulled a face there. Is that a concern for you? Or?
I'm just wondering who Chelsea have got FA Cup semi-final weekend. Whether it could be, if they've got one of the semi-finalists, whether we could play the Chelsea game in that weekend.
They might be a semi-finalist, Jace. They play tomorrow.
Of course
they might be a semi-finalist. So we might have our two games of the last week of the season might end up being City and Chelsea, like in the last week of the season, and then followed by Sheffield United our very last game, because that would definitely not change. So, and this is the thing, we might go on a run. Like people are saying delusional, like just wake up, man, and smell the coffee. Some people, like, I just don't understand some of your mentality in the chat. I'm not having it. Like we beat Chelsea and Arsenal and Man City to finish top four all them years ago with Crouchy's head. We can do it. Like we've been doing it. We can do it. It can happen. Poch got us to a Champions League final. Like we didn't even sign a player for 518 days, and we still got to a Champions League final. It's not over. It's definitely not over until it's over. Yeah, it's disappointing. But go and have a rest, 2 days, come back. We'll get behind the boys again. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, depending on how your mood is right now, look, we understand again, it is now near certain due to the coefficiency that fifth in the Premier League will get you a Champions League spot. I know many don't want to hear that now on the back of what Fulham have just done to us.
To be fair, sorry to correct you, Rick, while you're on full flow, but I don't think that's the case anymore because Bayer Leverkusen drew West Ham and Arsenal drew Bayern. And if Bayern beat Arsenal and Leverkusen beat West Ham, I think the coefficiency is also different. That means 2 German teams will be further than 2 English teams. So I'm not even sure that's... So where do we stand on that? Because now we're thinking coefficiency. And actually, now do we want Arsenal to beat Bayern?
No,
so
we don't want that. Not under any circumstances. Whatever happens, we do not want Arsenal to beat Bayern Munich. Because if they do, I'll be emigrating. This will not be a last word on Spurs. It'll be last word on golf, and Russ and Jace can take it over and do what they want with the bloody thing. Listen, I think for all of our mental health, we're going to leave it there. Russ, mate, thank you so much. I bet you're really happy now, Russ. You asked me to clarify where April's fixtures stand from earlier. I won't hear from you now for about a month.
No, we don't know, do we? But I'm looking forward to being on in April after the Gooners and Man City for sure. And look, it was on the players today. Yeah. It's the players. They know next game they've got to do it. And please, God or whoever your God is, they will.
Amen. Russ, thank you. Jace, the biggest, hopefully, compliment I can pay is, mate, welcome back. Bearing in mind, mate, you've had to go through the ring and the voice.
I swapped Thailand for a fucking cold, a shit show from Tottenham. Just, I can't wait. Can't wait. Just what I thought before.
You do say to me, Jay, so you prefer these games these podcasts when I don't talk about the game. I mean, I did try and steer off the actual game itself.
Yeah, okay? Just straight away. You've done well, only 59 minutes. I can watch the golf now.
Yes.
Jay, thank you as always, mate. Pleasure. Macca, rallying cry, mate.
You can't dress that up, my man. It was absolute shit show from start to finish. But look, like every week, we have to go again, don't we, lads, viewers and listeners? We have to go again, is what it is. We were total pony. And hopefully we'll turn up in our next fixture, which is annoyingly in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, well, listen, I know we said they're all must-win. Luton at home is must-win. It really is for the season. Look, from the brilliant Russ Williams, from the superb Jason McGovern, just about from the amazing Lee McQueen. We have been the last one on Spurs. Guys, thanks so much for all your support. Over 4,500 of you watched us live across all of our platforms again. Unbelievable support for the show. Sorry it can't be joy. Sorry it's therapy from us all. Please keep safe. Please keep well. Back with you soon as always. And come on, you Spurs.